but of course I know him by reputation, as everybody does, and nobody would buy a used car from him.
Michael Cohen, who paid the adult film actress Stormy Daniels $130,000 as hush money, is back in court for a second day of testimony. Let's speak to Alan Dershowitz, who is a US law professor and a former attorney for Donald Trump, who joins us now on Times Radio. Good evening to you, Alan.
Good evening.
Tell me what you make of the cross-examination so far of Michael Cohen. He's painting a picture here of admitting that he lied on behalf of Donald Trump. He's holding up his hands to everything, it seems.
Yeah, but he's also lied to the jury in this case directly. He, after all, tape recorded his own client. And then when he was asked to explain why he tape recorded it, instead of honestly saying, well, maybe he was afraid Trump would come after him and he wanted some insurance policy, he said he did it for David Pecker, the editor of that scandal sheet. Nobody's going to believe that.
National Enquirer.
And I think they're going to find him lying in front of the jury as well. Juries can excuse past lies, but they can't excuse witnesses who lie directly to them. And I think the thrust of the cross-examination will be to get him to lie to the jury in ways that the jury recognizes. There are two lawyers on the jury who will also, I think, have a skeptical eye towards somebody who has made a career of lying in the past and seems to be lying in the present as well. And the whole case turns on the uncorroborated testimony that Donald Trump basically said he paid the hush money not to spare his wife or his business or his friends' embarrassment, but only to win election, that it was only essentially a campaign contribution. And unless they believe that, they can't convict.
Yeah, and that is quite tough to prove given the circumstances. And of course, people are questioning the reliability of Michael Cohen's testimony, bearing in mind his past rap sheet. Are you effectively accusing Michael Cohen of perjury here, Alan?
Well, I think the jury will have to find that he's not being straight with them. And, he's not going to be charged with perjury because he's made a deal with the government. And he seems to lie for whoever he's working for. He was working for Trump. He lied to them. Now he's working for the prosecution, and he's prepared to distort the truth for them. I'm not suggesting there'll be a perjury prosecution. There would be a perjury prosecution, by the way, if Donald Trump took the witness stand and swore under oath that he did not have sex with Stormy Daniels. They would then prosecute him for perjury because she has testified that she had sex with him on numerous occasions and provided details of that. That's why he won't take the witness stand.
And the hush money case is a state prosecution, not federal. So Trump would not be able to pardon himself if he did win the presidency later this year. But of course, that is much, much harder to prove on a state level. This is where it gets a bit woolly. I mean, this is regarded as probably the weakest of the cases against Donald Trump.
It's the weakest case on the facts and the law, but the strongest case, or one of the strongest cases, on the venue. That is, they're trying him in front of a jury, which is comprised of jurors who voted against him overwhelmingly and don't want him to be president. So it's a strong case in terms of the jury pool, but a weak case in terms of the facts, and an extremely weak case in terms of the law. Many people can't, to this day, figure out what the crime is, because the crime of the misdemeanor of having falsely logged his payment as a legal expense rather than as hush money, that expired under the statute of limitations years ago. So in order to resurrect it, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that his only purpose in doing that was to help him get elected, not to spare his wife and his family or his business embarrassment.
Did you come into contact with Michael Cohen at all? You, of course, were the person representing Donald Trump in one of his impeachment trials.
That's right.
Did you come into contact with Michael Cohen
personally?
I never
did. I may have spoken to him on the phone, but he didn't pay me any legal fees or anything like that. So I never came into contact with him. I came into contact with his constitutional lawyers, but not Michael Cohen. But of course, I know him by reputation, as everybody does, and nobody would buy a used car from him.
Look, many people say, certainly supporters of Donald Trump, that this is just all part of the judiciary fix against Donald Trump. It's all designed to soil his reputation as we approach an election. But the fact is, it's not really having any bearing on Donald Trump. Some might argue that it's actually strengthening his case. I just wonder, from your perspective, you voted for Joe Biden, didn't you, in 2020?
I did.
You're a member of the Democratic Party?
I vote Democrat. I'm not a member of any party. We don't carry cards. But I am a voter of Democrats. I voted for every Democratic presidential candidate since John Kennedy in 1960.
So do you believe that this is a political play against Donald Trump?
Yes, I do. I think the purpose of this is to get a quick conviction from a favorable jury, knowing it will probably be reversed on appeal, but only after the election. The other purpose was to have a gag order on him and to keep him in the courtroom instead of on the campaign trail. That all seems to be backfiring. His polls have actually strengthened over time, though a conviction could hurt him. There are voters, independent voters, who say that if he's convicted of a felony, that would affect their vote negatively toward him. So it's too early to tell what impact this will have on the election. It's having a terrible impact on the legal system, because what's happening is both parties are weaponizing the criminal justice system for their own partisan purposes. And we're going to see Democrats do the same thing, Republicans do the same thing. We're going to see this become part of politics now. And it's a terrible, terrible thing for our legal system, which is supposed to be above politics and absolutely neutral, and it's failed that test.
Look, I appreciate your valid opinion on that. Alan Dershowitz, who's a US law professor, former attorney for Donald Trump, just spelling out his concerns for the United States legal system and what this says about all of that, all of the involvement of the courts, and whether this is a setup, whether the legal system here is being, used as a pawn in the political play. Alan Dershowitz, thank you so much for joining us.